Hello everyone, I am Left, and today I have for you guys what is a bit of a placeholder video for a huge video project that I'm currently undertaking. That huge video project that I'm currently undertaking is what I'm going to call the Absolute Beginner's Complete Guide to Basics of Vainglory. Probably going to make the title a little bit shorter, but it's exactly what it sounds like. I want to take the in-game tutorials, put them all together, and make them better and more concise. So that's what I'm doing in the background, as well as prepping Nova for the VG8 Live Finals in LA on September 8 to 10. Also, I'm in my first week as a college student right now, so I am pretty busy. Regardless of that, of any homework that I have, of any classes that I'm doing, I have to talk to you guys about something today. And while this is a placeholder video, I will admit, I believe it has a lot of useful information in it that can help you in your ranked matches. I was thinking about this last night while I was watching some tryout scrims for Nova's Challenger team. Why is everybody diving the Crystal Sentry all the time while knowing full well how bad of an idea it is regardless of your situation? You see this in every single facet of Vainglory. You see it in casual matches. You see it in VG8 matches. You see it in ranked queue, whether you're in tier 10 like me or you're in tier 5. It doesn't matter what tier you're in or what sphere of play you're in, whether it be casual or whether it's at the live finals. People dive the Crystal Sentry and end up paying for it. Now, you can sort of do a better job or have a better chance of successfully diving the Sentry when you're up in levels and gold. But diving the Crystal Sentry when you're up in levels and gold is a great way to give the enemies a door back into the game, because the Crystal Sentry just does that ludicrous of an amount of damage to you. So there are three different reasons that I want to talk to you about today that I think could maybe explain why players are still diving the Crystal Sentry long after its implication. The first one is that new players may not fully understand its purpose yet. Now, if you're like in tier 10, yeah, you know what the Crystal Sentry does. But for some reason, they still keep diving the Crystal Sentry, which we're going to get to later. New players, they just may not fully understand what the Crystal Sentry is and what it does. They may not know the exact leashing range of the Crystal Sentry like I do. For example, you know the middle healing camp. If you're in range of the middle healing camp and you attack an enemy, yeah, you're in the Crystal Sentry's range. If you're in that little brush that's below the second turret and you attack an enemy, you're in the Crystal Sentry's range. That's about where it starts and ends. So, new players may not fully understand the purpose of the Crystal Sentry, therefore they play poorly around it and underestimate its purpose. In the middle, players may simply overestimate their damage and forget about enemy crowd control near the Crystal Sentry. Now, this can also apply to high tier players, but for high tier players, I have a different explanation. So you're playing Taka, you see an enemy that you could probably take out with an X-Retsu and Kaiten combo. You X-Retsu him, you go into the Crystal Sentry's range, the enemy Catherine comes out of nowhere and stuns you so that you can't Kaiten quick enough, the enemy runs away, and now you're stuck next to the Crystal Sentry taking tons of damage. You try to Kaku, they flare you, the Crystal Sentry hits you one more time, you die. So, it's just a game of knowing what you have up, always remembering what they could possibly have up, and being able to leverage your skills in an effective way based on what you know the enemies have. So now for the more complicated one, and this is what I've been thinking about since last week. I kind of wanted to make it into its own video, but I don't think it would have eaten up enough time. Old players, I think, by old players, what I mean is like myself, who's been playing Vainglory for more than 2.5 years. Old players have reflexes that cannot be easily adjusted. Things that are different, like, you know, like muscle memory, but for a game. It's been like long reinforced since I began to play Vainglory. That thing that's in the enemy crystal, like the little crystal blue thing on the enemy side, yeah, just ignore it. It does nothing. That notion in me has been reinforced since I started playing Vainglory up until when they added the Crystal Sentry. You see, if you're new to the game, there used to be a little guy there called the Minion Miner. And the Minion Miner's function was that, obviously, he would attack enemies that attacked his allies near him, but he had a much shorter range than the Crystal Sentry does. What would happen is, the Minion Miner had negligible damage at best. it didn't really do much. But its function was that if you captured it and killed it, then your minions would get stronger incrementally. And if you captured the enemy ones while holding the one on your map, then you would have super minions. And those minions would push turrets by themselves, causing the enemies to have to stay in lane for a longer period of time. So there was a metagame around taking these, giving them over to the enemies in order to give your laner gold, etc. But they did basically no damage. Now, back when Shin Kaigen was a professional player, instead of working at SCMC, he pioneered a strategy of minion candying your minion miner to ward off early invades by Kashka Fortress combos. Now, I think this was cool because it gave something that really its only purpose was to make your minions stronger and not really for defense. It made it pretty much it made it a lot like the current Crystal Sentry. And that was cool, but when the Crystal Sentry was added, all of that muscle memory from, I think it was about the Crystal Sentry was added pretty recently in my curve of playing Vainglory. So when they add the Crystal Sentry, that's 2 years of muscle memory of completely ignoring whatever boss monster is in that spot out the window. And I feel like it's a lot of the same way for other players that have played as long as I have. It just does not feel natural to have to just full stop once you get to that line that goes into the Crystal Sentry's range. You start to know where it is in your mind. You engage, you maybe get a kill, they're running away on low health, and you're like, okay, I'm about to have another dash, we can keep going, and then your teammate's like, no, we can't go near that thing. You know what happens if we go near that thing. And you're like, man, that sucks. This feels like poor game design, etc. But you have to do it. Even if you have reflexes and muscle memory from so long ago that have been reinforced so many times that, yeah, you can dive that thing because it does nothing. And that is why I feel you see professional players at the top of the game making what some people would call dumb mistakes going near the Crystal Sentry. Now, obviously, this isn't the entire cause, but I think it can be in a lot of situations. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I think it can accurately sum up why some players that the community considers great, or people that are vainglorious gold, have been making these mistakes diving the Crystal Sentry in Vainglory 8 matches. It can also explain why your average tier 10 ranked player is diving the Crystal Sentry in ranked matches. It can explain why I dive the Crystal Sentry sometimes. But just to round off this video, I want to give you guys some rules of thumb for fighting near the Crystal Sentry in solo queue. Don't. Unless, you see there's a catch, unless the enemy is low, has no dashes or self-sustaining skills available, or if your support can be there to tank the damage as you run past the sentry. When you've played Vainglory for as long as I have, it's very, very hard and feels unnatural to just full stop when you reach the enemy jungle. But now, you have to. There's really no other option, unless you have one of the above situations. The sentry just does such a ludicrous amount of damage that it's really almost never worth fighting near it. If you're ahead, never fight near the sentry, unless you have the opportunity, the clear and concise 100% opportunity to score a kill. Never fight near the sentry unless you have that. Doing this, abiding by this, will help you win ranked matches. If your teammate wants to dive the sentry and he didn't listen to your caution pings, just run away. Better to have him die and you two survive than have you all die. So thanks for watching this video, guys. I hope it was informative. I hope you learned something useful. And if you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe if you like what I do here. It supports me. And yeah, I'll see you all later.